Welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I am the host, Attorney John Khosravi, and I practice U.S. immigration law exclusively. For more information about the program, please visit www.immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. Please note that this recording is informational only and does not constitute legal advice. Please consult with a licensed attorney for specific legal guidance that suits your case. Also, this recording is copyrighted and written permission is required for rebroadcasting. For more information about me, please visit www.jqqlaw.com. Hi, everybody. We have a great interview today with AILA Bolour. AILA Bolour has been a friend of mine for a couple years now. Time flies. It's been more than a couple of years, but I remember meeting you at the first time at the LA County Bar immigration section many years ago when I was with my then girlfriend, now wife. Ali is an LA attorney as well, but he practices all over the country. He's been doing it for a while, and he's really, one of the best advocates we have as an immigration attorney for our clients. So Ali, just to get started, could you tell me more about where you grew up and then follow that segue into how you became an immigration attorney?
Sure, John. Thanks for that great intro. So I'm Iranian American. I was born in Tehran. Actually, I'm a Tehran native, I left around when I was 13 years old, and with my family and all over the place. We ended up here in Los Angeles, California, and then life happened, and eventually I became an attorney. And really I knew that I wanted to be an immigration attorney. So I went to like a 4-year program at Southwestern here in Los Angeles, and like year 2, I knew that I wanted to be an immigration attorney. So I started volunteering here and there, and tipped my toes. Here we are.
What helped you know that you want to be an immigration attorney? What stood out, or what got your attention for that?
Well, so I started out wanting to be an entertainment attorney, entertainment law. And my thing at law school was doing externships. So I did externships really after year 1, summer, and all throughout, because I was in the evening program. I was working and going to law school. And so I did externships at different places. I did Warner Chapel, I did New Line Cinema, and I did those things, and I realized I really did not want to be an entertainment attorney.
I had the same experience from an internship as well. I was at NBC Universal, so I'm like, yeah, this entertainment stuff isn't for me.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me. So then I did other things. I did Bethletic, and but the one externship that I think kind of was my lightning rod was when I worked for, I forget which summer, but I had a stint at the what was then the AIDS Service Center in Pasadena, and so I worked under a couple of attorneys, and so my department was in charge. I mean, we did a whole bunch of things for patients, and one of them was immigration, and so that was my first encounter with immigration law, really. And Mary Mucha, who now heads the LA County Bar Association immigration unit. I forget the exact legal title, but she's over there at LACBA. She was the supervising attorney, right? Mm-hmm. She would come and tell us how to approach immigration issues, and that's when I knew. And then after that, I took immigration law, and then I interned at Fragaman, and then it just rolled on.
Interesting. So I guess at LACBA, you had the full gamut of experience then, because you're at LACBA, which is certain type of immigration cases, then at Fragaman another type. So you saw both the business and family side of it, I assume.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. So at LACBA, it was
perfect.
Yeah. So no, I knew exactly what I was getting into, and that's what I wanted to do.
And then what happened? So you graduated, and then did you start working for someone else, or just jump in head first into your own firm, or is it feet first? Which one is this thing? But
so I graduated, and I started working for someone else, and so that someone else was actually not. Well, it was a great experience as to what not to do. So I was there for a few months, and I remember Judge Gordon, who has passed away, but he was an amazing judge. And I was doing cases with this guy, and he kind of had a conversation with me after one of my cases, and he said, you're just starting out. I'm just not letting you know you need to kind of protect your reputation because that's the only thing you got, and you don't want to, you want to have a second thought about, working with this outfit. And I had no idea where I was working. I just, had a job, and that's what I wanted. So I looked around and kind of saw where he was coming from, and I took his advice and I quit within a couple of days, really.
Wow.
And then I was starting, then I worked by myself. No,
Wow.
I had like a stint with a couple of other friends from law school where we kind of joined forces, and they were doing other things, and I was doing immigration law. So I've always done immigration law, but so I had that little outing as well. And then after a couple of years, then I was totally on my own, and I was a solo for a long time till a few years ago, and that's when I hired my first associate.
So how did you get, because a lot of the people listening to this are trying to get into immigration law or trying to start their own practice, or law students. How was that stepping stone? So you had experience. So when you branched on your own, you weren't going cold. But how was it? Just, and this is kind of pre-internet days when things are kind of more cookie cutter online. You can go and just figure out what you wanted, or at least get guidance and listen to podcasts and stuff. How did you learn the business aspect of starting your own law firm, and what made you comfortable with knowing the law and where to look and all that?
It was a different environment. We're talking about, at this point where, so I graduated in 96, just to put everything in perspective. So we're
Wasn't too
talking
much
late
pre-internet,
90s,
my bad.
and we're talking late 90s and really early 2000s. That's the time period.
Okay.
And, it was different. It was just the practice of law was very different, obviously. And I got a lot of benefit out of AILA Mentor. So back then there was an actual physical book of AILA mentors and different regions, California, Southern California, certain attorneys which donated, were very generous with their times. They were just listed. And I routinely called my elders, and I asked the very, fundamental questions, and they were very generous with their time. And through that, we formed, everybody, right, for friendships that last through this day. So AILA helped me a lot. Of course, now it's different, right? The book doesn't exist, but the relationships are still there. So, does that answer your question, John?
Yeah, that's really the most important thing, because you can get books of how to do stuff and all this kind of stuff, but it never makes up the fact of having someone there that cares and tells you exactly what to do, or not even exactly, but that holds your hand or gives you that guidance. So mentoring is the most important thing. I think LA National does have some kind of mentor program online you can sign up for. And in SoCal AILA, we have sort of systems, especially for law students that try to reach out in that system to do it. But I think that the most important thing is mentoring. If anyone's listening to this, having a mentor at whatever age or whatever stage you are is probably the most important thing you could have in business and in personal life. So when you started your practice, did you just take all types of immigration cases, or did you start narrowing your within a niche?
Yeah, so I didn't really have the luxury of choosing the cases. I was doing whatever came my way. So my practice, even to this day, it kind of morphs and ebbs here and there as economy changes. For example, before the recession, I had about half of my practice was business H1s. I was doing tons of H1s and so forth. And then the recession hit, and virtually all of that dried up. So I still do H1s, but not in the volume that I used to do before the recession. So my family side grew certainly after the recession. Other things that I can mention is so again, in late 90s, early 2000s, and I still am today. I'm a big advocate for gay rights. So back then, we had no rights. Literally had no rights. So it was very difficult to kind
You
of
said back then, it was
maneuver.
it's unbelievable that I was 10 years ago almost, or 15 years ago, there's no rights. It's amazing how things could change in a positive way.
Right. Right. So we advocated, right? It didn't, I mean, we were going to Washington, we were going to Sacramento, we were going everywhere advocating for our rights. And that was a community, right? So they helped me. We helped one another in flourishing really. So that was a huge, and still is, I have a huge clientele. So, as an example, I met a lot of people throughout 2000s and beyond before DOMA fell. And a lot of times, cases were litigated in court and so on and so on. And it was very difficult. So when DOMA fell, actually, I was in Europe. And putting aside the elation that I had that DOMA actually did fall. But when I came back from my trip, my calendar was full, literally full, for, I want to say, and I'm not exaggerating, for like 2 months out. Wow. Literally every hour, every day of the, my time was filled up. And, putting the financial side of it aside, it was really, really heartwarming that all these people that I'd met, and I told them, that I couldn't really do anything for you because of X, Y, and Z. They kept my number and they called me when things changed. And they all, a lot of them came back to me, and they're now my friends because they took my advice to heart. And when we met, and so that was really nice. That was like one of those moments in my life that I'll never forget. When I saw my calendar, coming back.
Wow. It's kind of overwhelming. I have growth spurts in my firm. We all of a sudden get a lot of cases. It's exciting, but at the same time, like, whoa, how are you going to practically deal with that? That kind of segues, like, what was your structure of your firm then with regards to, like, employees, associates, and now? Were you a solo at that time? Were you able to handle that kind of volume, or did you have to, like, expand quickly?
No, I was still a solo at the time. So that wasn't the reason that I expanded, but, so that's a good question, because I think as immigration attorney, so AILA stats are available on AILA.org. So most immigration attorneys are solos or, have small practices. So I consider myself now having a small practice, but I was solo for the longest time. And I think that, there is a way to, so I always wanted to break out. And I didn't know how. I didn't really think I could do it, and I didn't know how. So I talked to non-attorneys on how they would do it. So they gave me some ideas on how to break out and, hire somebody, an associate. So when that happened after DOMA fell, that was not the reason that I broke out and hired an associate. But at the time I was. Yeah. A solo, but I just took a chance. So if anybody's listening, it is doable. AILA has tremendous resources as far as practice management and how to do it. And there is an element of risk that obviously nobody can take away from it, but it's doable.
Well, when you develop a reputation like you have, and it kind of becomes sustainable, because I teach at Loyola, and one of the students once asked, like, how do you know, like, you're going to get clients next month, or how much money you're going to make? And there is a flow to it. Once it becomes a steady stream. Now you have 2009 events where everything crashes all of a sudden, but it does build upon itself. But I'm a solo, and when I first started, I wanted to start branching out. Then when I got into it, I thought of having associates and staff as, like, more of a burden. What are the positives? Like, compared to a solo life, what are the benefits that make it more worth it to start hiring people? In your opinion, what has been your joy in that?
Well, depends, right? Depends on what your goals are. So my goal was to service more clients and expand my practice. So that was my goal. But I didn't want to. Just do the numbers thing and do the volume. I really wanted quality. So, for example, the first associate that I hired, he was actually my law clerk. So that's the other thing. I always go to law schools, right? All my law clerks, I should say most of them have been uh, through law schools. So I hired directly from law schools. Obviously, there's limitations because they have to study for finals and take the bar, etc. But I think with law students, you have this just tremendous thirst, for knowledge, and they want to do things, and so everybody wins, and they get experience. I get the energy of the youth really to work with me, and they're just so inspiring to me. They show me another way that things can be done. Obviously I'm getting older, right? So as you get older, you kind of tend to repeat yourself doing the same thing, and then you see a young person doing something differently, and you go, oh, well, that's better,
Yeah.
right? So
That's important. I hear that. Now, how do you, when choosing a law student, and you probably get a ton of resumes, how do you decide which one's better, or the person you want to work with? Is there anything that stands out in those?
I mean, in general, right? I'm a true believer, obviously, of diversity. So I always try to have a diverse office.
Hmm.
So I look for that. So that's one thing, but that's not my primary, obviously the only thing. But I look at the resume, and I can't tell you how often. I'm sure you probably see the same thing. People that have high GPAs and everything's in order, they just have zero experience outside of law school. That to me is a big red flag.
Hmm.
So I look for experience. It doesn't really matter which office, but if I see a student has had experience at internships, externships, law offices, whatever, that to me is a good thing.
Oh,
So that's what
interesting.
I look for.
Interesting. Thank you. Yeah, 'cause, in SoCal area, we have a program where we collect law student resumes and we distribute to local law firms. And I do frequently see student resumes. I mean, every day I'm getting them. And that's really important, showing like a mix of stuff. And kind of the basics are just having it well written. Is I see problems with that sometimes. But that's interesting as a person that's hiring, because I don't hire myself. I just distribute that. That's an important part. Um, Now, this year we're going to have the AILA's national convention in San Francisco. Is it AC
Conference.
19 or the
It's conference.
conference? Which number is it now? AC.
Well, I don't know which number, but it goes by the year.
Oh, the year. I'm sorry. Yeah,
AC 2018.
I thought it was no, yeah, AC 2018, AC 18. I think they're right over about 2018. So you're the chair that's setting up the program. Could you let us know about just the whole event and what's going on?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for asking this question, John, because we need people to go and register. So obviously, 18, the annual conference, is the biggest event that AILA has. And this year, it's in San Francisco, which is like right up the street here. But so we've done a couple of things differently this year. So we expanded the program length, right? So it used to be that so it's basically Wednesday, and let me give you the exact dates. It's Wednesday, June 13th. Hang on one second. Yeah, so it's Wednesday, June 13th through Sunday, June 17th in San Francisco. So usually AILA annual conferences, they start on Wednesday, but Wednesday's pretty light on substantive stuff. And people arrive, and they check in their hotels, and they register for the program, get their badges, and so forth. But we start right up at 12 o'clock on Wednesday, and with substantive programs, like I'm on a panel on Wednesday afternoon.
Hmm.
And also we've started kind of a TED Talk kind of a thing. We are going to be in San Francisco, close to Silicon Valley. So we can't call it TED Talk because that's protected. So, but it's kind of the same kind of a setup where somebody who is, knows their things in a particular subject, business and so forth, they come and have a frank talk with the audience, right?
Hmm.
So we do that every night, almost
Great.
every night throughout. We also, again, diversity this year is the AC 18 coincides with the Muslim Eid period,
Hmm.
which Muslims fast during the day and break the fast in the evening and so forth. We've accommodated that for the first time for our Muslim members. So they're not away from their family, and also just doing AILA stuff. They can do their spiritual activities as well. And the other thing that we're doing this year that is kind of different is we have morning exercise and yoga sessions every day at 7 a.m. So you don't have to get fat and lazy just because you are going to the AILA conference. You can get up and do your yoga. You can do your exercise at 7 a.m. and be really sharp for all the classes and sessions that follow after throughout the day and through the evening.
Do you remember the first AILA conference that you went to?
Yes,
Where was
yes,
it?
it was. I do. It was year 2000 in Chicago, and I couldn't afford. I could hardly afford my airfare to Chicago. Never mind the hotel, fee. So I actually I went, and so that's the time that I was really me and a group of my friends nationally. We were really active on gay rights platform, and we were going to AILA, pushing AILA to go to that direction. So I saved my pennies and I went. I couldn't afford the AILA hotel, so I opted for a motel, a couple of stops away, and I got on the metro every day to go to the programs and so forth. It was amazing, and I think I did a blog on that. That's how I remember
Hmm.
talking to you. I'm not that sharp, John. It's just
I read the blog.
I
I was trying to, without showing you, I did read that, and that's why I definitely mentioned it. Because for me, like, I went to the first one in Las Vegas like 3 years ago, and I wish I had gone sooner. People had told me you're missing out, and I didn't realize how much I was missing out with regards to the education you get. And I get all the recordings too, so I listen to everything I missed afterwards. So anyone's listening, get the recordings and listen to it too, because you can't go to all of them. But at this point, when I go, a lot of it is just like when I was in New Orleans last year. It was just mostly I was just having fun. I kind of got lost track because you see all your friends there and you're just sharing information. And I'm glad I got the recordings because I couldn't go all the seminars because I was constantly outside talking with people about their practice, what's going on with the law, what's going on with them, and I would kept missing stuff. But it's just such a good time. You learn so much. It takes your practice to the next level. I think like if you're going to be a good immigration attorney, you have to go to the conference. There's no way around it. The amount of knowledge and information you get, and as you said, like the camaraderie. The best information we get is from that personal mentorship kind of stuff, and putting a face to things is important, especially because we have a national practice and we have attorneys all over the country we see on the listserv and we see on emails and all this kind of stuff. Meeting in person really takes it to the next level. So, I mean, I would say 100%, like your situation, even if you can't fully afford it, you find a way to go there. Unfortunately, San Francisco is an expensive city, but there's got to be ways and sharing rooms and all that kind of stuff that you could do it. But I'm really looking forward to coming there this year and having a good time and learning a lot. Okay, so we're nearing the end. It, one thing I want to quickly ask is how could people learn more about you and follow you? Do you have a social media page or anything like that that you like to mention?
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm on Twitter, Ali Bolour. My law firm's on Twitter, which you have a link if follow Ali Bolour. Our website, AmericanVisas.net, and Facebook also has a page for the business. So yeah, also Instagram. So that's where I'm
Okay.
active. Mostly really Twitter and Instagram. I kind of don't do Facebook that much anymore, but Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, I gotta follow. I'm your business Twitter. I was looking at the other day, but I'm not sure if on Instagram with you. Definitely got to add you. But one actually big topic that I just jumped over, I forgot is how has the changes in immigration, policy changes for the administration and stuff, how have you seen that affecting your clients and your practice?
So I heard an analogy the other day from someone, so I'm going to use it. I think all of us as immigration attorneys are busier than probably we've ever been, or for in a very long time. And the problem is, it's not being busy. I think immigration attorneys are busy these days and making money, but the atmosphere is very sad because clients are in distress
Yeah.
and people are getting arrested through ICE raids, and deportations are up and approvals are low. RFEs, requests for further evidence, is just high. So
Yeah.
it's difficult being an immigration attorney these days. And somebody said to me the other day, actually last week when I was in Washington, that it's kind of similar, I guess, to being a physician in the 80s at the height of the AIDS crisis.
Hmm.
And I thought that was like brilliant. That's exactly what it is, because the clients are there, we're there, just like the doctors were there, but people are dying, and death in our business is really deportation
Hmm.
and not getting the required relief.
Your life in the
So
U.S.
I
is
thought,
over. I always tell clients like you're dead in the U.S. like essentially, and all the opportunities that the U.S. has to offer once it doesn't work out.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's really the sad part. It's not really about. I mean, to me, it just everything is just so upside down. To deny that U.S. is a nation of immigrants and to deny the opportunities that immigrants bring to this country, and to deny the economic progressions that would follow any immigrant being admitted and supported. It's just really tragic. It's just really tragic on our, and the responsibility rests on all of us, right? We have to educate and demand our politicians to do the right thing,
Hmm.
and it's just, I think it's a collective. I mean, this whole nonsense of America first, it just doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense to me
No, not at
in
all.
2018.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I got really demoralized in February and March because about almost all my cases started getting RFEs, and they're all frivolous. And all of a sudden, like I was bombarded, doubling my work, just answering RFEs that didn't make any sense. So it's hard to answer them because I don't know what they're asking for. I got one RFE from a field office that says you need to send us evidence, and then that's it. I'm like, what does that mean? So I wrote him a letter saying, well, what are you talking about? I can go with the details and stuff, but it's so frivolous, and it's obvious to me that there's a policy now to just hassle people. There's no other way around these kind of RFEs, and I was so down. But last week I said, you know what? I just got to take this energy that's coming at me and redirect it in those martial arts kind of way, advocacy. So push back on it. And one thing I really want to do is learn how to do federal litigation and start filing lawsuits left and right, because it's really even appealing at AEO kind of stuff or field office stuff, a lot of it doesn't go anywhere. It's a black hole, and they just they'll approve one part and
Okay,
then not. We just
so
got to sue them really, and just put the media attention on it and sue them. That's the game plan I have for the next couple of years.
I think you're spot on, absolutely. And I just want to say something about AAO. So I was just, like I said, I was in DC, and we had various speakers come to us, and so AAO, unless you have to, unless when cases are denied, as you know, John, the decisions are often poorly written
Hmm.
and with no basis in the factual stuff that went in the case. They just deny it just because they want to deny it, and they can't really reason it. And if people appeal to AAO, it's really given. It's the same group of people, right? Just
Yeah.
different hats. You're giving the government another stab at making the denial more, reasonable, right? But if you go to federal court and just present the travesty, which is the denial, the federal court actually is a better venue for denied cases if the client has the resources, of course. But AAO appeals at this point in time, I think they're just like useless for the most part, and that's what we were told
They
in
replaced the
DC.
head of the AO, I think last week. They removed and put a new, like a Trump person in there. So that just
Exactly.
it's just ridiculous. So I have an L1, and a client is afraid of doing a lawsuit and wants to AO, but they are, as you said, the RFE, I mean the denial letter on the L1 didn't even factually match what we sent them, and they literally just like make up facts, and it was like unbelievable. I get frustrated right now thinking about it. So I know a deadline filing AO is coming up, and I'm like, we got to follow suit. And I don't handle suits, so I have to connect them with someone that does. But that's as you said, AEO is just it's unreliable, and they take so long that it could potentially take a year. I've seen AEO decision taking 2 years. So in that time, it just kills all the benefit that would have happened through that immigrant coming here, either non-immigrant or whatever, to do it. So I'm glad you talked about that. I think that's my next push in my own personal education. Those are the conferences and the seminars I'm going to go to at the conference this year to learn federal litigation, because that should be packed. We should all be like really mastering that and bombarding with lawsuits, because it's just ridiculous. And we
Oh,
district have.
absolutely. We should all file federal suits. So at the AC18 in San Francisco, we have extra panels for to teach federal litigation. I'm going to go to a whole lot of them, and because I think that's the next several years at least for any immigration attorney, file federal lawsuits.
Yes, I agree. Okay, I'm glad we talked about that. I'm gonna on my podcast. I'm gonna talk about that a lot more in whatever training I get, and I'm glad you set it up where we have more training about that at the conference. Ali, thank you so much for your time and talking with me, and it was great. I look forward to seeing you at the conference and probably in LA at our local events and everything. Thank you so much for coming by.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking me, and it's fantastic what you do. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Have a good one. Bye bye.
Bye bye.